I used to believe in the classic fear times, you know them, right? Midnight, the hour of ghosts and grave robbers, or the infamous witching hour, somewhere between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock a.m., the traditional time the veil between worlds thins. That's when every horror movie sets its big clumsy jump scares, the time no one wants to be awake for. But trust me when I tell you this, those hours. They are amateurs, they are distractions, because when something truly ancient, something truly hungry decides to crawl into your life, it doesn't need an hour, it doesn't need a vague block of time, it only needs 1 minute, one specific, cold, unchanging minute, and for me, that minute is 3:03 a.m. I never believed in patterns. I never believed in supernatural signs, cursed times, or the kind of nervous whispers people trade in dark corners of the internet. But the night everything started, the night my life was shattered, I learned the terrible truth. Some minutes don't just pass, some minutes wait. The first time I woke up at 3:03 a.m., I laughed. A small, dry, humorless sound. I'd been running myself ragged, working late, barely sleeping, surviving on coffee and anxiety. Of course, my internal clock was glitching. The second night, when my eyes snapped open, perfectly alert, at the exact same minute, I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. It was coincidence, I told myself, a fluke. But the coldness lingered. I spent an hour trying to fall back asleep. The digital red numbers seared onto my retina. By the third night, the humor was gone. I remember staring at the clock, my body rigid under the covers, not moving, not breathing, wondering if my mind was collapsing. Was I manufacturing this? Was this the beginning of a breakdown? Every muscle in my body felt primed for an impact that never came. Hold on, the sound of the deep, unnaturally slow breathing. But it was the fourth night. The fourth night is when the world tilted and everything I knew about reality began to bleed away. I opened my eyes and the air itself felt heavy, viscous. It wasn't scary, not. Yet it was something worse, wrong. A profound, indescribable wrongness, like the room had forgotten how to exist properly. A physical pressure settled on my chest, like the entire apartment had stopped breathing, just for me. Then came the silence, the kind of silence that feels alive, pressing against your eardrums until they ache. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was the presence of quiet. I tried to sit up. The thought was instantly met with resistance. It was like invisible ropes, cold and impossibly strong, tightening around my limbs, my torso, my neck. My body was frozen, locked in place. My brain screamed. My throat gave out nothing. And for the very first time, I understood the true terror of sleep paralysis. Not because you can't move, but because when you can't move, your mind is forced to focus on the things you were never meant to notice, like the breathing that wasn't mine, slow, heavy, almost thoughtful breathing coming from somewhere in the room. Every inhale was too long, every exhale was too deep. It sounded like something was trying to mimic the gentle, rhythmic sound of a human sleeping, but getting the timing tragically, disgustingly wrong, like it was practicing being alive. I forced my eyes, locked by the paralysis, toward the clock, 3:03 a.m. I wanted to rip my gaze away, but the fear had become magnetic, and then I saw it, a silhouette near the closet, in the darkest corner of the room. It was taller than any man should be. It didn't sway, it didn't shift, it didn't even appear to be a shadow. It was an absence of light, a hole torn in the visual spectrum. I fought desperately to rationalize it, a coat on a hanger, my laundry pile, a trick of the moonlight, something normal. But then, its head tilted, just a fraction of an inch, a slow, unnervingly curious movement. It was not a jump scare, it was an acknowledgement, and the breathing grew louder. It was no longer practicing, it was anticipating. In that moment, the fear wasn't supernatural, it was personal. I was seen, I was recognized, and I was trapped. I woke up the next morning, gasping for air, a ragged, choking sound. I was drenched in a sickeningly cold sweat. The clock read 7:46 a.m. The room was normal, no shadow, no breathing. But the corner where the figure had stood, it was freezing, not a sea cold, not winter cold. It was a hostile cold, a devouring cold that felt like it was absorbing the heat right out of the room. It was an unnatural temperature, a sign that something had been there, and that it had left its mark. I tried to deny it. I tried to convince myself it was a one-off trauma-induced hallucination. But you don't forget a presence that waits for you. Over the next nights, it happened again and again and again. The pattern was a cage closing around me, always at 3:03 a.m., always the same crushing, paralyzing weight, always the same heavy, wet breathing, always the same towering silhouette in the corner, except for one terrifying change every night. It came closer. Night 2, halfway across the room. Night 3, standing directly beside the bed. Night 5, I could feel the change in air pressure inches from my face. That fifth night when it was so close that I could feel its arctic cold sinking into the exposed skin of my neck, I swear I heard something vibrating through the mattress. Not words, not language. Just a rhythmic grinding sound, like it was trying to speak but didn't understand how a mouth worked. It was a machine attempting a prayer. The nights were the cage, but the days became the true torment. The haunting didn't respect the sunlight. It simply changed its tactics. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. I'd catch fleeting figures in reflective surfaces, the polished screen of my phone, the dark glass of a window, the mirror in the bathroom. I'd blink, look again, and they'd vanish, leaving only a spike of pure adrenaline. My lights didn't flicker. They sighed and dimmed when I walked into a room, as if something was drawing the energy from the air. And the doorbell, oh God, the doorbell. It would ring by itself at 3:03 p.m. like a twisted daytime mirror of its nocturnal visit. Like the shadow was knocking, a polite, sinister reminder that it knew where I was, even when the sun was high. One morning, while staring blankly at my reflection, I saw it directly behind me in the mirror, a tall, pitch-black shape leaning in close, studying the back of my neck like a butcher inspecting a cut of meat. My hand jerked, sending the toothbrush crashing into the sink. When I spun around, nothing was there, but the mirror was fogged up right where its face had been, fogged up from a breath colder than ice. Every night the paralysis returned. Every night the silhouette grew slightly clearer, a texture of pure, shifting blackness. And every night the room twisted in ways that defied sanity. The walls didn't just feel wrong. They seemed to bend inward like they were soft clay. The ceiling stretched and warped, defying perspective, becoming a pulsating void above me. Shadows crawled upward instead of down. The lights in the street outside strobed like they were being crushed. Then came the night of the final breach. I felt the paralysis slam into me so hard it was like a physical blow. My chest felt instantly crushed, the pressure building until I thought my ribs would snap. The heavy, wet breathing was right beside my left ear. Then I felt the touch, a finger, one finger sliding across my bare shoulder. It was long, it was impossibly thin, and it was too cold, a temperature that seemed to draw the very life out of my skin. I wanted to scream, I needed to scream. But my throat could only produce a tiny, futile vibration. The figure leaned over me, its shadow swallowing the last of my vision. I stared into its eyes, hollow, shifting blackness, like smoke trapped in a glass void. Then it whispered one word, a sound that tore through the air, "Vio, awake." The voice was a nightmare alloy, metal scraping against stone, a sound that should not exist in a biological world. The room didn't just twist, then it violently ruptured. The walls stretched outward like fabric tearing, the ceiling pulsed, a vast heart of darkness. The lights exploded into blinding, terrifying strobes, and the figure, it fractured. It split into multiple smaller, flailing shapes, then instantly merged again, a fluid, impossible geometry of shadow. They rushed toward me, a wave of suffocating, intelligent darkness, a sudden, ear-shattering sound of glass shattering and a scream that cuts off. I woke up outside my apartment. I was lying on the cold, grimy hallway floor, my entire body convulsing with uncontrolled tremors. My door was wide open, and inside long, thick black smudges streaked across the hardwood floor, like something had crawled or been dragged. I moved in with a friend the next morning. It felt like I had escaped. I slept like a human being. Again. But the next morning when I picked up my phone, my hands began to tremble. The lock screen showed the time of the last touch, 3:03 a.m. I never remembered waking up. Then I saw the notification, a video file, recorded while I slept, 9 seconds long. I opened it. The first 7 seconds were darkness and faint, metallic crackling. At second 8, something leaned into the camera so close that the entire screen filled with those hollow, shifting black eyes. The last second captured its voice, a chilling, triumphant sound. "Vio, you moved, but time doesn't." I dropped the phone. The shock didn't wear off. That was last night. And right now I'm sitting in my friend's living room telling myself I'm safe. But something is wrong. Something is chillingly familiar. A sudden aggressive chill just swept through the hallway, so cold it felt like a knife blade. My phone vibrated on the couch. I picked it up with shaking hands. The time changed. 3:02 a.m. Something is breathing outside the room. I have 1 minute left. 60 seconds. 1 minute until 3:03. 1 minute until everything that has been stalking me finds me again. 1 minute until the minute that doesn't pass arrives, if this recording ends abruptly. You'll know what happened because the breathing is right outside the door now, and the clock just changed to 3:03, VO slightly softer breathy. If you're still here, if you made it all the way to the end, then you know this isn't just a story. This is a broadcast from the edge of control. Maybe you felt something like this too, something you couldn't explain, something that woke you when you shouldn't have been awake, something that watched you when you couldn't move. If you've ever experienced anything like this, any nightmare, any shadow, any moment that made your blood turn to ice, you can share it in the comments below. Tell me your minute. Your story might just become the next video. And if you want to keep the shadows talking, if you need more real nightmares, more true style encounters, more stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, make sure to like this video, comment your experience, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. It helps more than you think, and it makes the shadows a little less silent.